Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. So in this video, I'm going to be telling you guys a story time about the time that I woke up early during surgery. Oh my goodness. All right, so let's jump into it. So whenever I was a kid, I don't know if you guys remember the Discovery Health channel. I don't think it's still around anymore, or at least I know it wasn't around for a while. It might be back on the air now. But I remember there used to be all those different like health shows on there. And I was in like second or third grade. I was obsessed with all those shows. And I used to watch all the little documentaries and everything on there. And I remember there being like a few different specials about like when anesthesia fails. And these people would go on there and they would tell these horror stories about like they woke up in the middle of the surgery and they were, completely paralyzed. They couldn't say anything. They couldn't let anyone know. And I remember being like so terrified of that, like thinking like, what would you do in that situation? Like, what would you do if it was you? Like, oh my goodness. So I never had any surgeries or anything up until the age of, I think I was 19, maybe 18, 19, I don't know. I had braces and I knew that my wisdom teeth were impacted. I had known that they were impacted since the time that I was 15, but I didn't have any pain. I only had 3 wisdom teeth. The 4th one never grew in. And I think only 2 of the 3 were actually fully impacted. But I never had any pain. I never had jaw pain. I never had headaches from them. I only knew that they were there just based on the x-rays that I had gotten, over the years. And when I got my braces on, I only had braces on for 12 months. And towards the end of that 12 months, my orthodontist had pretty much said, you have to get your wisdom teeth out. Otherwise, it's going to push all of your teeth back. They're going to be crooked again. This whole thing would be a waste. So I did not want my wisdom teeth out. Just something in me, like my gut feeling just was like, no. So, I expressed my concerns to him and he basically forced me into it. He said that if I didn't get my wisdom teeth out, that he would refuse treatment anymore, and then that would be that. So I was like, okay, guess I have to do this. Now, like I said, I'd never had surgery before. I really didn't have any experience, in that whole area. He gave me the number to a oral surgeon that he recommended, and I didn't think twice about it. I didn't do any research. I didn't, try to find my own oral surgeon. He just gave me this number and was like, here, go to this guy. So I was like, okay. So already looking back, I can see why I was so uncomfortable, because I had never met this oral surgeon before. I didn't know what to expect. I had never been to his office. I didn't know what I was walking into. Basically I scheduled the surgery to get my wisdom teeth out, and they wouldn't give me any straight up information. I asked them just general questions like what type of sedation would I be under, and they had pretty much told me it was like a twilight sleep. I wouldn't be fully under, it wasn't like general anesthesia, but I wouldn't be aware of what was happening. So I was kind of like, okay, but I would rather have general anesthesia, and they just kind of brushed it off, didn't really care about what I was saying. And like I said, I had never had surgery before, so the whole thing was terrifying to me, and then the fact that I was forced into it was even worse. So the day of the surgery arrives and I get there and I'm utterly terrified, and I go into the office, and it's this little teeny tiny room, smaller than any other dentist room I've ever been in. And the dentist, the oral surgeon, was so rude, and you can tell that he just kind of had the attitude of I do this all day, it's not a big deal, that kind of thing. You can tell that that's primarily all that he does, is take out wisdom teeth, send you home, bring the next person in, so on and so on. In his mind, it wasn't a huge deal. So I had told the nurses, I was extremely nervous. I didn't know what to expect, what's going to happen. They totally just blew me off. They were just oh, it's fine. We do this all the time. You'll be fine. You'll go to sleep. Then next thing you know it, you'll wake up and you won't even remember anything that happened. So I remember as they were giving me the sedation, the last thing I said to them was, do I have to do this? I really don't want to do this. And next thing I know, I was asleep. So they had originally told me that the whole process would only take 45 minutes or less, because of the fact that I only had 3 wisdom teeth and only 2 of them were fully impacted. They said it wouldn't be long at all. It wouldn't be, a lengthy procedure or anything like that. So I was out, and then the next thing I know, I wake up, which it had to have only been maybe 10 or 15 minutes later. And I woke up and I instantly was aware of what was happening. I knew immediately where I was, what was going on. And I opened my eyes and I remember seeing the dentist was on the right hand side of me, and there was 2 assistants and they're both female, and they're both standing on the other side of me. And I just immediately freaked out. I started crying. I was like, oh my God, I'm awake. And I heard them like talking about it, like kind of like rushed. And they were like, oh, you know, she's awake, she's awake. So then they must have given me more of the sedation or whatever, because then I passed back out. And I woke up again after it was over, and the nurse comes in and she's like, oh, or the assistant, I don't know what they call them in the dental industry, so if I'm getting the terminology wrong, I apologize. But the equivalent of the nurse, I guess, comes in and she's like, yeah, you woke up a little early there. So then, like, at that point, I thought I had dreamt it. Like, you know what I mean? But then when she said that it actually happened, I knew that, okay, this was real. Like, that really just went on. And I was totally freaked out. And then there was really no, like, recovery time. I mean, it's like you sit there for a short period of time and then they say, okay, you can go home, you know, as long as you have a ride there to drive you, they don't care. So, you know, you always see those videos when people are all loopy after they get their wisdom teeth out or after they have, you know, any type of surgery. I didn't have that at all. I was totally aware of everything that was going on. I obviously was like tired. I felt kind of like run down, but I wasn't like loopy, like all like, I wasn't any of that. I was fully aware of where I was, what was happening. I knew everything that was going on, and I was really just mad. I remember leaving the office so demoralized because of the fact that that just happened, and the fact that they just brushed it off like it was nothing, like I was just supposed to accept this. But again, at the time, I was young. I really didn't know any better. So I was just like, okay, I just want to go home and just forget that this whole thing ever happened. So it ended up being a really rough recovery. It was like everything that could go wrong did. So I had a few complications along the way, but eventually my wisdom teeth healed up and I thought everything was fine. Fast forward 2 years later, I think it was, I had to have a sinus procedure done. So I'll spare you the details. Basically, I had too much tissue on the inside of my nose. So my nose was essentially acting as if it was swollen all the time, but it wasn't actually swollen. It was just I had too much tissue, if that makes sense. So I was told, very simple procedure. We'll just go in, just use a little like cauterizing tool, I guess. And it just like removes just a tiny bit of the tissue and you'll be on your way. Everything will be great. So I'm like, okay. So I had told the ears, nose, and throat doctor about my experience with the wisdom teeth. And he assured me that this was general anesthesia, that there was no chance of me waking up early, and that, you know, because it was a different type of sedation, it was probably just a one-time fluke, you know, this would not be an issue this time around. So I was like, okay. And Maddox is laying here. Keep your tail out of my camera. So I was like, okay. So this time around, it was in like an actual hospital, obviously, even though it was just a really, really minor procedure, but everyone was super, super friendly. You know, they were all really sweet, really nice. And they took me in for the procedure, put me to sleep, and I didn't wake up during, but I woke up when I was still on the operating table. They had just finished, and it was a very, very short procedure. It took maybe 20 minutes. So I woke up probably at exactly the 20-minute mark. And again, I was not loopy. I was very aware of where I was. I knew exactly what was going on. The very first thing I said was, where am I? Because they had put this giant ice pack like over my nose and I couldn't see. It was like blocking my eyes. And I said, where am I? And the nurse was like kind of startled. She goes, oh, honey, she said, you're still in the operating room. She goes, I can't believe you're awake so soon. And I just was like, oh, I said, you know, like, how long did it take, or how long was I in here, or something like that. And she goes, oh, it's been less than 30 minutes. And I said, oh, okay. And then I must have like fallen back asleep or went back under. I don't know how that works. But next thing I know, I woke up and I was in the recovery room. So then, you know, it was like a different nurse or whatever. She comes in and, you know, was kind of joking about it. And she was like, yeah, you woke up like really early on us. She's like, you know, we were still in the operating room getting cleaned up and you were already awake. So I was like, yeah. So then I was like, you know, aware at that point that this is not normal. People don't just wake up in the middle of surgery. So ever since then, I'm terrified to have any sort of procedure, but it's very alarming. The fact that these are like such short procedures. I mean, like 15, 20, 30 minutes. And like, I was awake. Like, my body was like, hey, I'm not doing this. And like I said, I wasn't loopy after the fact. Like, I was very aware of where I was, what was going on. So it is kind of concerning in the future if I do ever have to have like a major procedure, the fact that this could happen again. And the idea of if I ever have to have a long procedure, you know, I mean, people have surgeries that are like hours long and they stay asleep the whole entire time. That's the norm. And the fact that I woke up twice during these little tiny short procedures is just crazy. So yes, that is my story. I just wanted to share that with you guys because there are so many crazy things that happen in my life and that I just assume are like normal to me because it happens to me, that I'm like, no, this isn't normal. I should like share this with someone because someone might get a kick out of this. But yeah, the sinus one, it wasn't too bad. Like I said, they were already done. So, you know, but just knowing that I was still in the operating room and I was just awake is kind of spooky. But the wisdom teeth really like scarred me for life, just because not only waking up during, but waking up when there's 3 people like in your mouth, like, you know, staring over you. And I didn't have the best experience to begin with. Like I said, they were not very friendly. They were not nice people. They just, you know, wanted to get done and get me out of there. So being wide awake, and I knew instantly what was going on. I knew where I was. I knew what was happening. Just freaked me out so bad. So yeah, but luckily now I haven't had any other, you know, dental procedures. I mean, I've had minor stuff like fillings and whatnot, but I have a regular dentist now, not the orthodontist, but like my normal dentist. And he's amazing. Everyone in his office is great. So, you know, I trust him with any procedures from here on out. But yeah, now I know next time, definitely do my research and always stick with your gut instinct. If you don't feel comfortable with somebody, don't be afraid to speak up and say something, because I knew like wholeheartedly that I should have like really stuck with that and just said like, no, either I'm not doing this altogether or I'm not doing it with this particular dentist. But, you know, like I said, my orthodontist was just like, here, just go to this guy. You know, he's great. I recommend him all the time. So I was like, okay, not knowing any better. But yeah, so that is my story. And I just wanted to share that with you guys because it is kind of crazy. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you guys for watching. If you did enjoy it, please be sure to give it a like and subscribe to my channel. Bye, guys.